There's a decision sitting in front of you right now. Maybe it's small, maybe it's enormous, but either way, you haven't made it yet. And you've been living inside that pause for longer than you'd like to admit. This video is about what's actually happening in that pause. You've probably been told that you think too much, that you need to just decide, just act, just stop analyzing everything to death. And maybe you've tried. Maybe you've caught yourself mid-spiral and thought, okay, this time I'll just go with my gut. And then your gut gave you 17 different answers and you were right back where you started. The frustrating part isn't the indecision itself. It's that you can see the loop from inside it. You know you're overthinking. You can narrate every step of it in real time. And somehow that awareness doesn't stop it. If anything, it makes it worse, because now you're overthinking the overthinking. That is not a personal flaw. That is a specific kind of mind. And once you understand what's actually driving it, something shifts. Let's start with what's really going on. When you face a decision, most people experience mild uncertainty, weigh a few options, and move forward. For you, the process looks different. The moment a choice appears, your brain doesn't narrow down, it expands. It generates possibilities the way a river generates tributaries. One thought branches into four branch into 16, and somewhere in there the original question gets buried under the weight of every conceivable outcome. Psychologists call this need for cognitive closure. Some minds have a very low tolerance for ambiguity. They require resolution before they can settle. But when the resolution feels unattainable, when no option feels certain enough, the brain doesn't let go. It keeps processing. It keeps searching. Not out of weakness, out of an almost architectural need for completeness. Research by Ari Kruglansky showed that individuals low in need for closure tend to generate more hypotheses, consider more variables, and delay decisions longer. They're not slower thinkers, they're wider thinkers, and width in a world that rewards speed can feel like a defect. It isn't. There's also something happening below the surface, something emotional. Many chronic overthinkers aren't actually afraid of making the wrong choice. They're afraid of what the wrong choice would mean about them. This is the psychological concept of self-evaluation threat. The decision becomes a mirror, and if you choose wrong, the reflection might show someone who is careless, foolish, not as capable as people think. So the mind stalls, not because it doesn't know what to do, but because knowing and then acting and then being wrong, that sequence feels more dangerous than simply remaining in the question. This maps onto attachment research too. If you grew up in an environment where mistakes were met with criticism rather than curiosity, your nervous system learned that errors are costly. It wired a threat response into the act of deciding. And now, decades later, choosing between two job offers or two cities to live in activates the same quiet alarm that once went off when you brought home a bad grade. Your brain is not sabotaging you. It's protecting a version of you that needed protection once. Here's a metaphor that might help you feel this differently. Imagine a chess player who is so good, so capable of seeing 12 moves ahead that they struggle to make the first move. They can see every branch of every consequence, every version of every future, and that vision, which should be a gift, becomes a kind of paralysis. You are that chess player. Your overthinking is not the absence of intelligence. It is, in many cases, a consequence of it. The brain that won't let you decide is the same brain that catches things others miss, that anticipates problems before they arrive, that understands nuance in a room full of people seeing only the surface. The problem is not the capacity. The problem is that this capacity has no off switch. It runs even when you don't need it to. So how do you begin to work with this mind rather than against it? There are 4 principles drawn directly from cognitive and behavioral psychology. Not hacks, not shortcuts, frameworks that match how your brain actually functions. The first is decision bracketing. This comes from research on cognitive load and decision fatigue. The mind struggles when it treats every decision as equally significant, so you begin to categorize deliberately. Before engaging with a choice, you ask, is this a Category 1, 2, or 3 decision? Category 1 affects the next 10 years. Category 2 affects the next 10 months. Category 3 affects tomorrow. This single act of sorting reduces the threat signal. Your brain calms slightly when it knows the stakes have been named. Most decisions, you'll find, are Category 2 or 3, and that matters. The second principle is satisficing over optimizing. The psychologist Herbert Simon coined this term. It means choosing something good enough rather than searching endlessly for the best. Overthinkers default to maximizing, scanning every option for the optimal answer. But research by Barry Schwartz shows that maximizers report lower satisfaction than those who satisfice, even when they make objectively better choices. The endless search costs more than it returns. You don't need the perfect decision. You need a workable one.
The third is the outside view. When you're inside a decision, you're inside your own fear. The inside view is distorted by emotion, by personal history, by the weight of self-evaluation. The outside view asks, what would I tell a close friend in this exact situation? What would a neutral observer who cared about me but wasn't me recommend? This is not about abandoning your instincts. It's about accessing a part of your reasoning that the threat response has temporarily blocked. The outside view loosens the grip of the inner spiral. The fourth principle is time-bounded deciding, not arbitrary deadlines, neurologically grounded ones. Research on decision anxiety shows that extended deliberation past a certain point does not improve outcomes, it entrenches doubt. You give your brain a window, 30 minutes for a medium decision, 24 hours for a significant one. When the window closes, you choose with the information you have, not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're recognizing that more time will produce more loops, not more clarity. These four tools work because they address the actual mechanisms. Bracketing reduces threat. Satisficing interrupts the optimization loop. The outside view bypasses self-evaluation. Time-bounding overrides the search behavior before it compounds. But underneath all of this, there is one mental model that holds everything together. Think of your mind as a vast, well-lit library. Every decision sends you into that library to find the right book. Most people walk in, pick up one or two books that seem relevant, and walk out. But your mind reads every book, checks the footnotes, cross-references the appendix, wanders into sections that have nothing to do with the original question. The library isn't the problem. It's extraordinary. The problem is that you've never been taught how to use it efficiently. You've been operating without a retrieval system. And a retrieval system is simply this: knowing what you're looking for before you walk in, knowing how long you're allowed to stay, and knowing that leaving without every book is not failure, it is function. You may have spent years believing that your indecision was a character flaw, evidence of something missing in you. What if it was evidence of something present? A mind that takes things seriously, that cares about consequences, that wants to choose well, not out of fear alone, but out of a genuine investment in the quality of a life thoughtfully lived. The goal is not to think less, it is to think with structure, to give that wide, restless, beautifully exhausting mind a container it can work inside of, rather than a void it keeps trying to fill. You are not broken. You are a library that's been searching for its own catalog, and now you have a few pages of it. That's enough to begin.